Homeostasis Introduction. Homeostasis refers to the body's ability to maintain a stable internal environment. It regulates hormones, body temperature, water balance, and etc. Maintaining the body continuously monitors its internal condition. Homeostasis is a property of cell, tissue, and organism that allows the maintenance and regulation of the stability and constancy needed. To function properly, homeostasis is a healthy state that is maintained by the constant adjustment, biochemical and psychological pathways. Homeostasis came from Greek words same and steady. Refers to any process that living things use to actively maintain fairly stable condition necessary for survival. Thank you.
Homeostatic processes. Homeostatic processes ensure a constant internal environment by various mechanisms working in combination to maintain sequence. Example of homeostatic process. Homeostasis is the body's attempt to maintain a constant and balanced internal environment, which requires persistent monitoring and adjustment as conditions change. Homeostatic regulation is monitored and adjusted by the receptor, the command center, and the effector. The receptor receives information based on the internal environment. The command center receives and processes the information, and the effector responds to the command center, opposing or enhancing the stimulus. Key terms. Homeostasis, the ability of a existing or living organism to adjust its internal environment to maintain a stable equilibrium. Effector. Any muscle, organ, etc. that can respond to a stimulus.
Homeostasis in the human body. The human body would not be able to function efficiently if there is a prolonged imbalance in the internal physical condition and chemical composition. Just like any other living things, the human body employs various homeostatic mechanisms to sustain its optimal functioning. Variables such as body temperature, pH, sodium level, potassium level, calcium level, and blood sugar level have to be kept within homeostatic range. The homeostatic range is defined to be the allowable upper and lower limits within a particular variable. If beyond this range, the body will soon fail to take out its task and become dysfunctional. In order for the body to keep these variables within efficacious limits, various regulatory mechanisms are employed, and each of them is comprised of three general components.
Good morning guys! So, ang topic po ngayon na i-share ko is about the three components of homeostasis. Okay, the first one is the receptor. The receptor, ito po yung nagre-receive ng information regarding the status of our body. Okay, the second is the control center or integration center. Ito naman po yung nagre-receive or nagpa-process ng information galing sa ating receptor. Then, the third one is the effector. Ito naman po ay yung organ or tissue that receive information from the integrating center and acts to bring about the changes needed to maintain homeostasis.
Ang labor contraction ay ito siya yung mga nangyayari sa babae kapag malapit ng manganak. Ito yung usually cause discomfort or a dull ache in your back and lower abdomen, along with the pressure in the pelvis. Ang blood clotting po ay ito siya ay tinatawag ding thrombus or clotting is normal but clots can be dangerous when they do not dissolve in their own. Treatment range from medication to surgery.
So ayan, good morning po. Ako po ang inyong lingkod, Argeline and Bonbon po. Magdi-discuss po ako sa inyo ng about po sa calcium homeostasis. So, ano nga po ba ang calcium homeostasis? So, calcium homeostasis refers to the maintenance of a constant concentration of calcium ions in the extracellular fluid. So, ang calcium homeostasis daw po ay tumutukoy po ito siya sa pagpapanatili ng patuloy na konsentrasyon ng mga calcium ions at sa extracellular fluid po sa ating mga katawan. So, calcium homeostasis regulates calcium flow to and from the bones. Inadequate calcium levels can result in osteoporosis. Calcium release from the bone is regulated by parathyroid hormones in the liver, which is then converted to the calcitriol in the kidneys, the biologically active form of vitamin. So, ayun nga po, sinasabi dito na ang calcium homeostasis daw po ay kinokontrol ang daloy ng calcium papunta at mula sa ating mga buto. At hindi sapat na ang taas ng calcium ay maaari pong magresulta sa osteoporosis. So, sinasabi po doon na ang hindi daw po sapat na calcium homeostasis po ay maaaring magresulta sa osteoporosis. So, ang paglabas ng calcium po mula sa ating mga buto ay kinokontrol ng parathyroid hormone sa ating mga atay na pagkatapos ay na-convert sa calcitriol sa mga bato and biologically active from the vitamin D. So next, what maintained calcium homeostasis? So, calcium homeostasis is controlled by the PTH, vitamin D, and calcitonin in the interactions of the skeletal, endocrine, digestive, and urinary system. So, sinasabi dito na ang nagpapanatili ng ating calcium homeostasis is kinokontrol po ito siya ng PTH, vitamin D, at calcitonin, at ang mga interaksyon ng skeletal po, and endocrine, digestive, and urinary system. So next, what is the purpose of calcium homeostasis? Calcium homeostasis is the mechanism by which the body maintains adequate calcium levels in order to prevent hypercalcemia or hypocalcemia, both of which can have important consequences for health. So, ang calcium homeostasis po ay, ang layunin po nito ay isa po siyang mechanism kung saan po ang katawan ay nagpapanatili ng sapat na antas ng calcium upang maiwasan po natin ang hypercalcemia or yung tinatawag po na hypocalcemia na parehong maaaring magkaroon po ng mahahalagang kahihinatnan po para sa ating mga kalusugan. Next natin, what two hormones maintain calcium homeostasis? The major hormones that are responsible for normal calcium homeostasis are parathyroid hormone and 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D, and hormones control extracellular fluid calcium on a chronic basis. Sinasabi dito na ang pangunahing hormone daw po na nagpapanatili ng calcium homeostasis is responsable para sa normal na calcium homeostasis ay ang parathyroid hormone at ang 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D. Ang mga ito po ay kinokontrol ng mga hormone ang extracellular fluid sa isang tama at talamak na batayan. So, ito naman po, how calcium homeostasis is maintained in our body. So, calcitriol regulates the levels of calcium and phosphorus in the blood, helps maintain a healthy skeletal system bone. Resorption by the osteoclast release calcium into the bloodstream, which helps regulate calcium homeostasis. So, sinasabi dito kung paano daw po natin mapapanatili ang calcium homeostasis sa ating mga katawan. So, kinukontrol ng calcitriol ang mga antas ng calcium at phosphorus sa ating mga dugo. Then, tumutulong na, ito po ay tumutulong na mapanatili ang isang malusog na skeletal system po. So, ang resorption po ng ating mga buto, ng mga osteoclast, ay naglalabas ng calcium sa daluyan ng ating mga dugo na tumutulong sa pag-regulate ng calcium homeostasis po sa ating katawan. Ayun po, lahat po ng aking mga nabanggit yan po ay mga information po about sa calcium homeostasis. So, pagkatapos nating i-discuss ang calcium homeostasis, ay dumako naman tayo sa potassium homeostasis. So, what is potassium homeostasis? Potassium homeostasis denotes the maintenance of the total body potassium content and plasma potassium level within narrow limits in the face of potentially wide variations in dietary potassium intake. It involves two concurrent processes, the external and internal. So, sinasabi dito na ang potassium homeostasis po ay tumutukoy po sa pagpapanatili ng kabuuang nilalaman ng potassium sa ating mga katawan. So, meron din pong merong dalawang prosesong nagaganap at ito po ay ang panlabas at panloob. Then next, the regulation of potassium. Potassium homeostasis is maintained predominantly through the regulation of renal excretion. The adrenal gland and pancreas also play significant roles. The most important site of regulation is the renal collecting duct, where aldosterone receptors.
Homeostatic mechanism that respond to a perturbation may be in the form of looping mechanism called feedback mechanism that may be positive or negative. Positive feedback maintains the direction of the stimulus. It tends to accelerate or promotes the effect of stimulus. The negative feedback is a self-regulatory system and is employed in various biological systems. It reverses the direction of the stimulus and tends to inhibit the source of stimulus or slow down the metabolic process. And one of the example of negative feedback is thermoregulation. Action potential generation. In neuron signaling, positive feedback is demonstrated during membrane depolarization. As nerve impulse is relayed along the axon of the neuron, voltage-gated sodium channels open in a series down the axon. The first set of voltage-gated sodium channels open, resulting in the influx of sodium ions. This, in turn, causes the depolarization of the surrounding area, which means the next set. This, in turn, causes the depolarization of the surrounding area, which means the next set of voltage-gated sodium channels will open. Thermoregulation. As we can see, homeostatic regulation of body temperature in winter and summer seasons.
In winter, the thermoreceptors detect a body temperature drop and relay this information to the anterior hypothalamus in the preoptic area of the brain. The brain centers then initiate control mechanisms to return the core body temperature to the set point. And in summer, the body corrects the increase in core temperature by dissipating the heat and evaporative cooling mechanism by sweating. Thermoregulation is an example of negative feedback, tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, and it refers to the homeostatic regulation of the body temperature. And the human body tends to maintain an internal temperature of about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is equivalent to 37 degrees Celsius. And it is also referred to as a set point. The core temperature is regulated chiefly by the nervous system, particularly the anterior hypothalamus in the preoptic area of the brain. When the ambient temperature is less than the skin temperature, heat loss occurs. This means that in colder surroundings, the body loses heat, mainly from the hands and the feet. Napapansin natin na yun nga, kapag malamig, nandoon talaga yung naglulus yung heat, and yung katawan natin is nag-absorb siya ng lamig nga, and yung temperature natin is nagbabago din. As the result, the core temperature falls.
Homeostasis refers to the characteristic of a system that maintains the balance and stability of the internal and external environment. So, why homeostasis is important to us? Number one example is the maintenance of body temperature. So, one of the common examples of homeostasis is the body temperature. In humans, the normal range falls on 37 degrees Celsius. In order to maintain this, the body controls temperature either by producing heat or releasing excess heat. When the body temperature goes beyond the 37 degrees, the person would get fever. And if it drops below this limit, the person would get hypothermia. So, number two example is the maintenance of glucose level, a special type of sugar in our bloodstream called glucose, and it needs to be level for the person to be healthy. If the sugar level gets too high, then the pancreas releases a hormone called insulin to balance the glucose in the bloodstream. On contrast, if the sugar levels drops too low, then stored glycogen, form of sugar in liver and muscles, get converted into glucose to maintain the optimal balance. And the third example is it protects us from infection. The immune system kicks in to maintain the homeostasis when a rogue virus or bacteria gets into the body. It fights and protects from getting infections before they make the person ill. So, number four is the maintenance of blood pressure. So, the healthy blood pressure for human is 120/80. If the blood pressure is too high, the brain needs to send signals to heart to slow down the heart pumping to normalize circulation. Similarly, if the blood pressure is too low, then the heart compensates by increasing the pressure in arteries to keep the balance. This whole orchestration is done via the nervous and endocrine system. So, we can see how homeostasis is important to us. It stabilizes, it balances our body temperature, glucose level, and protects us from infection. Also, it maintains the blood pressure. So all in all, in the human body, chemicals like oxygen, carbon dioxide, and digested food enter the exit the cells using the concept called diffusion and osmosis. For this process to function properly, homeostasis helps our body to keep both water and salt balanced level. So, enzymes in the cell help in speed these chemical reactions to order to keep the cells alive, but these enzymes need to be in an optimal temperature to function properly. Again, homeostasis plays a crucial role in maintaining a constant body temperature for enzymes to do their job. Lastly, mechanisms to attain homeostasis are stable as they need to resist any change that happens within and outside the organism's environment. These mechanisms vary depending on the individual and may either be positive or negative feedback. So, it is important to note that homeostasis occurs naturally when a system is stable and functions correctly. This can be achieved by continuously making systems work together in harmony. So that's it.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Today I am going to show you what is calcium homeostasis and also potassium homeostasis. First is calcium homeostasis. Calcium concentration in blood is regulated, calcitonin, and PTH activated. Potassium homeostasis. The body corrects potassium levels through the action of the adrenal complex. A high concentration of potassium in the plasma lead to the membrane's depolarization of the zona glomerulosa and adrenal cortex.